Yo, what's going on, guys? And today, of course, we're talking about Terance Mann and Highland are heading to Atlanta. I actually really like this deal, as Bogdan Bogdanovic is a guy who can play the two or the three. He can also be a secondary playmaker for the Clippers. He has technically 2 years remaining on his deal, but after this season, he's basically an expiring contract, as his last year of the deal is a team option. And he's struggled this year, but he is a guy who still is a really good secondary playmaker who can hit the 3-point shot and kind of fits what the the Clippers need. While the Clippers send Mr. Terance Mann, who's a great Swiss Army knife that Quinn Snyder is gonna love, while also netting themselves a guy in Bones Highland, a backup point guard and combo guard, really, who will fit their play style, but also will allow them to, if it works out, they can maybe re-sign him down the road. And to me, I think the biggest thing is that you're seeing right here is that a guy like Bogdan Bogdanovic hasn't played in a few games now. And the thing with him is that, yes, he's shooting 30% from three, and that's part of the reason why the Hawks had to give up 3 second-round picks. But if you had looked during his time with Atlanta, he was basically a 38% shooter on almost 15 points a game, who dished out about 3 assists a night, 3.5 rebounds, about a steal a game. And I think he's someone who, if you look at the depth chart of the Clippers, for what they need, a multi-positional player, it's gonna work out. Now, if you look at this from the other side, Bones Highland hasn't played much this year, so his stats are kind of irrelevant. And he does have a restricted free agency tender if they wanted to, apply that. Terance Mann this year, he was a guy that over the last 3 seasons, he had been averaging almost 26 minutes a night and about 9 points a game, shooting 50% from the field. I'd have to say 36% from three and almost 4 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists, a steal and a block a night. And he'd kind of fallen out of Tyronn Lue's favor. And as a result, and he's a guy who, another one, can play he's basically going to fill into Bogdan's role, which I think is great. Who Bogdan this year is playing 24 minutes a night till kind of getting phased out, and he's going to be able to step into that role. And Terance Mann, 6'5", 215, is a swing man who can play both the guard position and the wing position. He's got great IQ, advanced feel for passing. He's a winning player from his days in college, as well as a great defender who covers multiple positions. Great finishing in the paint. The 3-point shot comes and goes. It has a little bit of a slow release, but it works. He's got the size. And Bones over here was a guy that a lot of people liked coming out of college. Obviously, we knew that he, started hot, and then it kind of like cooled off because of attitude, and it just seemed like kind of got into it with coaches and teammates. So that was one thing that a lot of people have brought up as like kind of like things that have held them back in the past. Now I'm going to pull up right here for you guys the Atlanta Hawks depth chart. It's obviously not, Jalen Johnson's out for the season. He was averaging 19 and 10, and they just brought in George Niang. And so let me update this. I don't know why I took a smaller screenshot, because if you guys want to see the full, because we assume, is George Niang going to start, or are they going to start Terance Mann? I really like these moves that the Hawks did, because it gives them a lot of roster flexibility. And now the team is definitely, especially with Clint Capella leaving, like, don't expect Clint Capella to be around anytime, like, after this season. So to me, it just works out really, really well, because Karis LeVert, George Niang, and Terance Mann were all just brought in to help alleviate the loss of Jalen Johnson. And I freaking love that. Plus, Kobe Buffkin, from what I understand, is going to be out for the season. So Bones Highland, who's played 11 minutes a night this year, 7 points, just under 2 assists a game, 1.5 rebounds. If he can get to his numbers, what he was doing with the Nuggets in 19 minutes a night, there's like a room for him. Like, I'm not kidding. This is not me trying to be overzealous about that. Like, I actually think there's things that they can do to make this look a lot better than you would initially suppose. So to me, I think this is a deal that's going to help, obviously, the the Clippers and a deal that's going to help the Hawks. I think this is another one that on paper, as I said about the DeAndre Hunter deal, that both teams needed something. The Hawks just wanted to move off of their boy Bogdan's contract and get guys who are going to help improve this team's defense. Because that's one of the things, if you guys aren't paying attention, is like the Hawks are a bad defensive squad. Quinn Snyder's tried to alleviate that, and they just didn't have enough defenders. Well, I think here, getting yourself Bogdan Bogdanovic, it gives you size outside of James Harden and Norman Powell, who both are more shooting guards and or more guards than, while Bogdan's kind of a swingman, and Amir Coffey was really their only swingman they had on their roster. So now you get Bogdan, you can play shooting guard, you can play small forward, you can even be a ball handler. You get some more size on this team, and it's a very low risk because if you can flip his contract down the road, and you're going to get yourself compensated for what he was valued at. Now, to me, I think when you look at Bogdan right here, it obviously he's not going to be someone who's going to come here and set the world on fire, but I think he's going to be able to come in and contribute as a playmaker, a three-point shooter who can do stuff with or without the ball in his hand. And to me, I think just having that option right now is in itself is really, really valuable, and just goes to show how, as teams construct their rosters, you got to look. They wanted more size, the Clippers, clearly, and I think they were able to get themselves in position to do a trade that benefited basically everybody involved, because the Clippers went out and, like, yeah, could this be a risk if it doesn't work? Sure. But at the end of the day, I think the risk that they took was, okay, we wanted size, we wanted length, and we went out and got the cheapest guy there and got compensated for it, and we got rid of somebody who maybe wasn't a part of the program anymore. So that, to me, that's where I look at this and I'm like, damn, you know what? I think they were smart how they approached this, how they looked at the deadline, and I think that's what the good teams do when they see an opportunity, just like a bargain bin opportunity. And I thought that's the type of deal you wanted to take if you were a team like the Clippers. You wanted to find a deal that was going to allow you to, you know, be decently compensated, where you didn't feel like you just overpaid for something. And I think this is an example where if this works out, it's going to be an upgrade that didn't cost them much. It's going to help the team raise its floor and maybe potentially its ceiling. And to me, you aren't losing anything by doing so, because of how because of what you needed. And those are, I think, can sometimes end up being the best kinds of deals for a team, because they had a need. They saw a way to address it without affecting the team's chemistry in a way that could be detrimental to their success. And they basically found a guy who can step into the role that they're trading away, which may or may not be an important role anymore, which I'm referring to Terance Mann. And I think Terance Mann just became expendable this year. So I did like that deal in that sense, if you looked at it like that. And I thought it just gave them the optionality to go ahead and make a move that really just allowed them to play their cards and put themselves in a position where I think it wasn't risky, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think they risked anything, and they did a move that at least seemingly might raise the team's ceiling a lot better than you or I would have ever imagined had they not made a deal like that. So that's my whole point. Is I think it's one of those that you look at it and you're like, damn, all right, I see what you guys are doing. Like, you might have not pictured them doing something like that before.